Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerds on Tap, where we get nerdy for an hour with some special guests. Today's guests come from the world of marketing and specifically SmarterWeb, one of our sponsors. So we all know each other. So this is going to be a little bit of I think, a more outlandish show because we're going to have a little bit of camaraderie going on during the show. No nerves, right, Kina?
Not at all. Never. You know me.
So, brought to you by our sponsors today, Digital Boardwalk, who rules the world of managed IT services for businesses all across the country, and SmarterWeb, our marketing professionals for your small business. So make sure you reach out to them if you need a website or IT for your companies. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about today's segments after we hear a little bit about our special guests. Kina Robinette and Shelby Payne of SmarterWeb.net. Who wants to go first?
After you, Kina.
I can jump in. I'm Kina. It's first off great to be here on the podcast. I am the marketing manager over at SmarterWeb, so I handle not just, the SmarterWeb typical day-to-day marketing duties, but also our client projects where we help SMBs grow their digital presence online. We do everything from web design, SEO, to Google ad campaigns. And so I kind of oversee a lot of those client projects, and my wonderful friend Shelby over here helps tremendously with all of those as well. So Shelby.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Shelby. I am marketing coordinator at SmarterWeb, so I get to work with Kina very closely on all of these projects. And I would say we have a lot of fun with those, don't we?
Absolutely. We're both definitely very passionate about, graphic design, marketing, and then also I think we want to help grow our clients' business. We have a very personal relationship with a lot of our customers. And so we love seeing, as time goes on, we've had customers under our belt, and we love seeing their growth over time.
So you guys help make the show for Nerds on Tap, don't you?
That's
Indeed,
right.
we do.
Who writes the outline for these shows?
I don't know, some girl.
Some girl named Shelby?
Really awesome girl.
So Shelby came very prepared for today's show. She has footnotes written on the back of her hand, and she is prepared to put the show on. Kina just saw the outline a minute ago, and so did I. So we are going to wing it, but I am excited to hear about all the magical things you do for our customers. Kina, before we get started, and before we taste our first beer, you do know this is a beer show, right? Not a wine show?
Oh, I think I have somewhere I have to be, actually.
Okay. Why don't you tell the audience how you got into marketing and where that passion came from? Because I think it rings close to your heart.
Yeah, it really does. So I actually kind of, I guess, got my first start with marketing when I was actually a little girl. My dad was the marketing director for a lot of companies in the music industry. He worked for a few different companies over there, but when I was a kid, he had his office, his little studio room that he worked out of, and he worked from home as a contractor for a while as well. And as a little girl, I would go in there, watch what he was doing on his fancy computer, and just be so amazed by everything, especially the web design side of things. It just amazed me. When I was, I think, it had to have been my 7th birthday, I think, he got me for my birthday. He bought my domain name, kinarobinette.com, which I still own to this day.
How old were you?
I was 7. And
You had your own domain at
Yeah.
7. Oh my God. Domains didn't exist when I was 7.
You're showing your age there.
Hey!
But yeah, that was my birthday present, and he helped me build a website with a giant pink butterfly on it and my name everywhere. But watching my dad as I was a kid, he was extremely passionate about what he did, and that definitely shaped my passion for the industry as well. When I got into high school, I started kind of designing blogs and fun websites, just really for fun. And then it wasn't until I got to college that I realized I have these things that I love to do. I can actually do that for a living. I just never really put two and two together and realized I could do that for a living. And it's the best decision I ever made. I love it so much.
And you're really good at it.
Try to be.
Our customers at Digital Boardwalk all use SmarterWeb to build their websites and do their SEO for them, and they all love them some Kina.
I do my best. It really is very rewarding to see whether it's a website design, project from nothing to a completed website, or SEO blogs, seeing them, their rank on Google or Bing, seeing that gradually climb up. It's extremely rewarding. So it's easy to be passionate about for me, I guess.
So Shelby, how did you get into marketing, and what led you to SmarterWeb?
It's actually funny. My first marketing job was as the cow for Chick-fil-A.
All right. No way.
Yes way.
On the billboards?
No, I was a little baby cow, and I would dance around on the hill and
way.
try to get people to come eat at Chick-fil-A.
That's
but
awesome.
I also, managed events, and I managed their social media campaigns and rolling out new products and things of that nature. But I always think it's funny that I started as a cow. And then I discovered around the same time I was 14, I discovered that I really loved drawing and painting and just being creative. And eventually that led to me realizing, kind of with Kina, hey, I could do this as a job and be very fulfilled in what I do. And so for me, the world of loving marketing and loving design kind of came together with web design. I could do both of the things that I love to do, and I could do it for people and bring them joy out of what I do. So I came to SmarterWeb a couple months ago.
It's been a little bit now.
It's been a little longer than that.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe 3, 4. I don't know. It's been a little bit, but
Did we warn you that you would be on a podcast?
no,
you
that
helped write
came
the outline for?
after I signed on the dotted lines. I think.
I know, I was not warned either.
So after coming, I got a couple questions for you before we taste our first beer, because I know you guys are anxious to try these beers in front of us. First of all, do you still have that cow costume?
No, I had to give it back.
So, Jared, can we order a cow costume? We're going to put a reel together for the show and have her dance.
Perfect.
Bring back memories.
And when you came on with, since you're newer at SmarterWeb, and I'm kind of glad that we have this contrast here of new and old. See what I did there,
Wow.
Kina? Yeah, I had to do it. You did it to me. Tell me about what you see inside the doors of SmarterWeb from the terms of how we go about developing and do you see any passion?
Absolutely. I think, the whole reason I wanted the job was after I talked to Kina and just seeing her passion and desire to do these things and to do them well in a way that would serve our clients well. That made me really want to join the team, honestly. Just seeing that we were both passionate about this and we could both bring something to our clients that they don't get every day, because we're not just building beautiful websites. We're building functional websites with usability, and we do this because we care about them. And I think that's the drive for our customers and clients too. They see the same thing in Kina that I did.
And when you lift the hood of one of our websites, we're going to get into that later in the show. Data. It's all about data, and that is what makes a website functional. Being able to track data, being able to know where your campaigns are going, which ones are working, which ones aren't, and we'll talk about that later. First, let's try a beer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nerds on Tap. I'm your host, Tim Shute, and I couldn't be more excited to embark on this nerdy adventure with all of you. So grab your favorite brew, because things are about to get exciting. 3, 2, 1, go! Suds, what do we have first?
All right, our first beer tonight is the Light Crispy Boys American Light Lager from the Three Sons Brewing Company. They describe it as a full flavor with less guilt, a perfectly balanced, crisp, and refreshing year-round crusher.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Ooh, I like that. Where's that from?
That is from Dania Beach, Florida, founded in 2011.
Okay, we're going to have to tag them, Shelby, because that beer, I need to keep that in my cooler.
I like that
That is
one.
very good.
It's refreshing.
It's not just refreshing, it has a really good afterbite to
It
it,
does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that kind of drives it home.
Yeah.
So-
Well, and it's not, for me, the reason I am more of a wine drinker than a beer drinker is because a lot of times beers leave like I guess aftertaste is what we're talking about. But this one's very light. I like it a lot. It's not overpowering.
You're not drunk yet, Kina?
I don't know. I'm feeling it.
So today we're gonna get into 3 topics. We're gonna talk about the world of web development. We're gonna dive into navigating SEO and digital marketing. So if you're a small to medium-sized business out there, pay attention to today's episode. Send it to your friends. Send it to any other business that you think can use it, because we've got some great stuff to talk about today that can help you drive net new business. The third topic will be SmarterWeb's projects and the future of web development through the eyes of our guests and what they're thinking. So first, we're going to talk about SmarterWeb and your roles inside of web development, and maybe dive into the landscape of development and design through your eyes. Now, when you start a website, and tell me about the process from the moment the lead comes in to, from the moment a customer hires us to do their website. Tell me the flow. What happens from there?
The first thing, really, for most of our projects, not just the web design, but if we're doing content marketing, whatever it is we may be doing, our first step is always to learn as much as we possibly can about the client themselves, what their goals are. If it is a website, what's their branding, what kind of message are we trying to put out there? What is their current lead generation process look like? And really try to get a handle on understanding who they are and what they're, why they hired us in the first place. From there, and usually, that can be a series of, we meet, get real up close and personal with the client sometimes, but make sure everyone on the team has an understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. And then from there, we typically go, if it's a web design project, we start to put our ideas together. Our team puts our heads together and says, how can we not just visually get across their message, but also what is their message? Who are they trying to target? A lot of business, especially small businesses, don't think right off the bat about who it is they're directly trying to speak to. They're just, trying to get their name out there, trying to get their product out there. But if you're not speaking to the right audience, the wrong audience isn't going to care about your product. It's going to just go straight over their heads. They're going to just click off your site. So it's very important to nail your target audience down, figure out who it is you're speaking to. And from there, a lot of the pieces can fall in place pretty easily as far as like design. What would that target audience be looking for at a website? What kind of content are they looking for? What questions are they going to have before they sign on with you? So there's a lot of strategy that goes into a website aside from just having it look pretty and, work.
So when they come to you, that's their first thought. I want a website that looks pretty and all of this, but what they don't realize, somebody told me this one time, is you can have the most beautiful website in the world, but without these other things, to get people to find the website, and we're going to talk about that mostly in segment 2. Mm-hmm. They referred to it as a billboard in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like a pretty brochure of your services, which is nice, or your product, which is nice, but is it really achieving what you want it to achieve?
So it's going to be about beautiful design, which we're going to stay on that topic, but it's also about being found and making sure you can turn it into some, I hate this term, but a cash register, because it's about finding new business. So let's stay on this topic and let's stay on web design. So let's get into the user friendliness of it. So when you look at a website, let's say it's a website that you may not have designed. You're just looking at a website. And I know we're looking through your eyes. So you're going to see a website different than a regular visitor is going to see a website. And what are you looking at? What are you looking at through your eye? What do you see?
There's a few different things. The main thing I always look at whenever I look at any website is what is the main call to action? What are you calling your visitors to do? Where does that lead them? Usually it's a big button. A lot of times it says get started or something along those lines.
What do they refer to that as? A call to action?
Yes, a call to action.
Yeah.
Usually a button, some kind of, you're literally calling your users to some kind of action. It could be like a downloadable. It could be just you're bringing them to a contact form. A lot of websites don't have any kind of call to action. So that tends to be, business owners in general kind of maybe don't see the value in it. But if you have you have a user come to your site and they have no idea where to go.
I think every website I've been to has a contact page. Isn't that a call to action?
It can be. It's a general contact form is a type of action. It may not always be the most effective one. Some people may not be ready to contact you. Some people want maybe some type of information about you. They want to.
But they're not going to land on a contact page when they go to a website. If I go to abc.company.com, I'm going to go to their homepage.
Right, exactly.
So you want call to actions trickled through that page. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, the homepage and, if you're a service-based business, services pages, even the about page should have some kind of, they call it the marketing funnel. It should all lead to some final action all throughout your site. Your site should essentially be convincing users to take that action.
And what is that action called from a marketing perspective? Is it a conversion?
Oh, yes, yeah. You want your website to convert, so they call that typically a conversion. Some people also, in analytics programs, they call it a goal or an event, but typically that's a conversion. You're converting that user.
And then you want to be able to track those conversions, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about that. I hate that Shelby's not doing any talking over here, but we really don't, we're not hitting on what she really does yet. And I think that's going to be mostly in segment 2. So, but chime in where you can if you have anything to say. So I want to talk about, so we're talking about technology. We're talking about the importance of technology on a website. Everybody looks at a website and sees a beautiful website and they go, oh, wow, that's a great website.
Right.
But from a owner's perspective on a website, you don't want it to just look pretty. You want it to do the job for you. You want to be able to automate certain marketing processes and things to drive what you mentioned earlier was a marketing funnel.
Right.
So that marketing funnel leads them down that funnel, leads the users a certain way. Can you track user behavior on a website, and what is the importance of that, and how do you, when you collect that behavior, let's say across a number of users, how does that data help you with the website? What can you do with that website, and what can you do with your marketing perspective of how you use that website as an owner to make adjustments based on that data?
Well, yeah, data really is the number one thing with with websites. We if you have through analytics such as Google Analytics, which is definitely the most kind of industry standard, you can track how much traffic you have coming to your website. From that traffic you have coming to the site, you can track what pages they clicked on, how many pages they clicked on, how long they were on your site, looking through your different pages, looking through your offerings. You can track them all the way to when they actually convert, whether that's filling out the form or downloading a PDF or whatever it may be on your website. And using that data, you can really, there's so much you can learn from the data. You can see where people are dropping off. Maybe you have a page that doesn't perform well or doesn't answer questions, so people click off, or even a page that doesn't load quickly enough, and so people click off. And you can track from beginning to end where people are, if they're at different stages of their what they call a buying journey, where maybe they're first doing their research to figure out who they want to go with for your service, or They're still assessing different, you and your competitors. You can really dig through the data and find, kind of how to steer your, not just your website, but all of your marketing campaigns. Are there gaps in your marketing that the data can tell you? There's so much you can learn from the data.
So SmarterWeb does some pretty incredible things with data. You collect data and it's all curated into an aggregated, kind of an aggregate under what you call Smartboard,
Yes,
right?
correct. So Smartboard is our proprietary, essentially it's an analytics dashboard. It pulls in data from all different channels, whether, if we're running SEO campaigns, content marketing campaigns, it pulls in, rank tracking on Google. It pulls in, if you have Google Ads campaigns, it pulls that in. Your regular Google Analytics on your website, it pulls that all into one single pane of glass. So you can see, one place where you log in and you can see all of this data to give you a really comprehensive view of how your online marketing is performing. And so it's extremely valuable. We use it. I mean, I'm on there for our clients multiple times a day, checking to see, where do we have opportunities? Where do we maybe need to clean things up? It really provides so much value to any business, really, to have a good eye on your analytics.
That's great, and so you can audit this data. You can make pivots for your customers or recommendations to your customers. So you've got data that flows in, from my understandings, from like Google Analytics. So you can see behavior on Google. You can see search engine optimization analytics. You can see, so if you have a campaign, for instance, a landing page with a form, maybe that comes from an AdWords campaign where you're targeting a certain demographic, you're tracking those phone numbers. Can you tell the audience how you track, or kind of the generalized idea of how and why you track numbers, why all those numbers are different, and how that can lead to optimization of your sales funneling?
Right. So what a lot of, especially smaller businesses, when they're first starting out with their marketing, they tend to, and we'll use Google Ads campaigns as an example. They have multiple campaigns or multiple ad groups that they're running that all lead to one single page with their main phone number on it. And so if things come in from that page, that doesn't really give you any insight on where that lead came from. By creating either individual landing pages, or what we do, we have individual landing pages for different campaigns, but each landing page also has a unique phone number tied to it. It forwards to your main phone number, and that process works fine. But by having individual or unique phone numbers for each campaign, if a call comes in, you know exactly where they came from. Like, if you put a phone number out for an event you recently attended, you put that phone number on, your print materials for that event. If someone calls that phone number, you know exactly. You don't have to ask them, how did you hear about us? You already know that they found you through that event or through that ad campaign. Because a lot of people, they'll just say, "Oh, I found you through Google." That's not, from a marketing standpoint, that's not super insightful, because Google is huge. It could be just your main homepage. It could be an ad campaign. But by having those unique phone numbers and unique contact forms on each page, you know exactly where the lead is coming from. You don't have to guess. It takes the guesswork out of your marketing.
Okay. So the first thing, I just want to chime in here. I have finished my first beer. We're getting close to segment 2, so we're going to have another beer introduced. I would recommend you guys maybe down those because I have a feeling segment 2 and segment 3 might be a lot more entertaining if you drink those beers. No, I kid. But so Shelby, tell me how you, before we get into segment 2, I'd like to hear how you work closely with Kina, specifically on the web design side of the house, and how you interact on some of the pieces in those development, in the development of those sites.
Absolutely. So if we're talking about just the design portion, there is a lot of important steps to that people don't really think about. One of those being someone who's taken a couple classes, on UX and UI design, one of the things that I find really important is making sure that you're crafting a good user experience. That means those call to actions. It's really important to have verbiage that the client understands, that your customer understands. If you have a call to action, but you don't really make it clear what the action is, the customer is not going to click on that button. That's one of the things that I think we think about when we're mocking up our websites. Another thing that I help Kina with is we make sure that all of our websites are responsive. So that means if you're looking at it on your cell phone, if you're looking at it on your iPad, your tablet, your laptop, your desktop, whatever.
So responsive design.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we make sure that no matter where you're viewing it, it looks the same generally. Things will be moved a little bit for your phone so everything fits, but in general, the design kind of remains intact.
Yeah, that's kind of a deal killer for me when I go on somebody's website for my mobile and it looks and operates exactly like when I go to it on a PC, because it's not functional on a mobile,
Right.
considering you're just trying to find key pieces of information. But if it doesn't scale properly and I can't even read it on my mobile,
Right.
then we have a problem, right? I'm not going to be interested. I mean, if a company can't get that right, it's kind of a turnoff.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It kind of sends a message that the company doesn't really care that much about you viewing their content.
Yeah.
So things like hover options. A lot of our buttons might hover on a desktop, but you can't hover on a mobile. There's no way to do that without a mouse. So that's one of the really important things that we focus on when we're designing our websites.
Got it. So I want to transition into segment 2, but I'm looking at these. If you don't want to drink your beers, just tell me, because I'll drink the rest of your beer. I'm sure Suds will dive in, but you gotta let us know. Yeah, Suds, if he has to. You hear that?
If I must.
So we're gonna dive into SEO and digital marketing after introducing beer number 2.
All right, beer number 2. This was not planned. It's just a coincidence, but it's a Beach Blonde Ale, American Blonde Ale from Three Daughters Brewery in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's described as a light and refreshing with just enough hops to balance the malty sweetness and add a hint of citrus.
That's pretty good. That's definitely got the citrusy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big citrus guy.
Yeah.
The aftertaste, the beer's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna discount the beer, especially if you like citrus, but the aftertaste reminds me of a cleaning agent.
I've tasted a lot of those.
But I will drink it. I will drink it, ladies and gentlemen.
It smells delicious. Like when you first put it up, it
Mhm.
smells so good.
I will say that our group at SmarterWeb are not big beer drinkers, because this is the first show. This is show number 11 that we're doing, and it's the first time I've actually seen full beers piling up in front of them. So, but that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to be it's fine. Drink your beer. I'm kidding. So let's talk about SEO and digital marketing and the blend of the two and how that can help you as a small business. So let's take a deep dive into SEO. Search engine optimization and the importance of it and the significance of it in today's digital marketing landscape. When I first launched my first business was in the late 90s. And you were supposed to throw up a website. But websites back then and the technology, Google reviews, Google wasn't around.
Mm-hmm.
You had only a few browsers out there, and they didn't do this kind of review thing that all these big tech companies are doing now. So the digital landscape has shifted, and SEO is a big part of what everybody should be doing for their website, because it gets you organically up in the, I'm sorry, that beer's making me want to burp. And I'm trying my hardest not to mic'd up like this. Yes, I'm an animal, ladies and gentlemen. So you guys, I want you to collaborate here, and I'd love to hear a very collaborative discussion between the two of you on SEO and the value it brings to a small to medium-sized business and how it works, kind of.
Yeah.
I will say, like, when I started and I came to SmarterWeb, I didn't know a lot about SEO. That was one of the things that Kina has been such an amazing teacher on, and she's taken the time to really kind of explain things to me and get me resources to understand. And I will say it is incredibly important once you realize
Yeah.
what SEO does.
Right.
You
It's the
realize
foundation,
purpose.
right? I
It
mean,
is.
it's
Yes, because like Kina said earlier, I mean, if you have this beautiful, responsive website, if people aren't finding it,
Like, what's the point? You know?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And a lot of people, I explain this to a lot of our new clients. When you think about it, a lot of people don't understand what all goes into SEO, but if you can kind of break it down pretty simply. If you think of yourself as, you are Google. Let's say you're Google and someone types something into the search bar, some question they have or whatever it is they're searching for. Your job as Google is to bring them the best results, the best answer to that question. So, SEO, if you break it down like that, kind of becomes simpler in a way because your end goal is to answer that question to the best of your ability.
And it's really important, the foundation that you build a website on. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to work your way out, right?
Yes.
From the website that you've built.
Mhm.
Because I've seen websites, now back in the day it was front page. Do you know what that is?
Not really.
That's your dad.
Yeah.
Would have. So front page is what everybody built their websites on in the 90s and early 2000s, and it was very archaic. And then, all these different technologies starting to come out. And, I'm dating myself here, but this is important to hear the legacy side of it. We all used yellow pages to drive business to businesses back then. So people all they saw a website as was a calling card that if someone wanted to find out more information, they could go to it. So they weren't as pretty because of the way they worked back then. But most importantly, you had these different technologies, even Adobe Photoshop. People were creating websites in Adobe Photoshop. Now the problem, and I'm going to use this as an example, Adobe Photoshop, what are you creating with Photoshop? What is it known for? What do you create?
Images.
Images. So what does Google see?
An image with no text or anything really aside from a title you can put on it.
So Google sees words.
Yeah.
Google, an image to Google is it doesn't have anything to reference unless nowadays you can alt tag an image, right? And I want to hear more about that. But back in the day, people would design an entire website in Photoshop. Google wouldn't see it, and then they'd wonder why they weren't being found.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we build them on WordPress. That's the most popular,
Right.
or a proprietary infrastructure or a platform. So tell me, if you're working your way out, we start with the website and we start with the way it's designed, and we use a term called on-page SEO. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so typically when we build our sites, we want to build in, there's certain things that Google's going to look for, not just on the front end as far as, your content and what you're writing, what the words that are actually on the page, but then there's also things on the back end that Google can pick up now. Alt tags are something that we mentioned a second ago. Those are basically tags on an image that you can, it's extremely important for accessibility because an alt tag is basically text that describes the image on a website. So if someone, say, has a vision disability and uses maybe a screen reader to view websites or access websites, if your website is all images, they have no idea, they can't see that. Alt tags provide an explanation of what that image is, but they can also be very valuable SEO-wise. You want to describe the image. That's first priority is describing the image for screen readers. But, if you can add content in there that's helpful for your SEO as well, that's a huge opportunity.
Content.
Content, yes.
So content on the image, but where else? I mean, content is king, right?
Content is king all throughout the site, how you tag things on the back end code, different HTML tags that you don't see when you access a site, but are important on the back end for Google to be able to read. Even how quickly your page loads, because Google will see if people access your site and immediately click off, that to Google, that's a red flag, and that can count against you. If your page takes too long to load, that can count against you. And so there's so many things with on-page or technical SEO that you don't really think about, but that can make a huge difference when you're trying to rank higher on Google, when you're trying to get your website up there for people's search queries.
So on page, that's where you start, right? So you're designing the website, and you always have on-page SEO in mind. So we're talking about alt tags. So tagging all your images, we're talking about content and the importance of content. So within that content, when Google reads that content, let's talk about keywords.
Yeah, keywords are extremely important with Google. Keywords are kind of a beast because sometimes you can be wanting to rank higher for a certain keyword and then find out that's not even the right keyword. No one's searching that. So your strategy with keywords is very important. And keywords are basically just, they can be search terms on Google that people put into their search bar. But you want to include that kind of, whether it's long form keywords, what we call long tail, or even short keywords, you want to include that in your content so that your website pops up when people makes those search queries.
So let's stay on the topic of content, and we're going to get into both of you now, because I think you help a lot with this, Shelby. So once you get a website up, you've got this beautiful website, you've got on-page SEO in mind, you've got all your keywords in the content. So Google reads it, Google scans it. They've got bots that scan networks. They bring it up, they rank them, and then it ranks over time. So changing your content, good or bad?
Can be good depending on the changes you make.
Right. And how often should someone change their website? When I say change, I mean update. So I think one of the more popular ways people update their websites is when a team member is no longer with a company and they add a new team member. Obviously, you got to update the team member page. But on the home page, adding things. So I think changing content or updating a website and keeping it current, that's something SmarterWeb does for all your customers.
Correct.
How important is that, and how does that chime into the SEO piece of it all?
Well, it's definitely important to keep your business information correct at all times. If your address changes, you want to make sure that gets updated everywhere across the web. But it's really important too, if you're going to be either changing your content or maybe you're blogging, you're posting blogs. It's important to, if you are going to do it at a specific, if you're going to do it frequently. I learned something, it's been a couple years now, but you can, in a way, almost train Google's algorithm to check your site if you make those updates at the same time. So not the same time, but if, let's say you want to post a blog and you post it, maybe a monthly blog to your website. If you post it at the exact same time and day every month, once Google starts to pick up that you're doing that, its bots will, you're kind of starting to train their algorithm to check your website at those times because they know you're going to have new content. So I would say maybe more so than frequency is the schedule at which you post is important.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a good.
I remember I learned that. I thought it was so interesting. That was one of the coolest things I've ever learned.
So we talk about on-page SEO in terms of content. We talk about updates. We talk about alt tags. Are meta tags as relevant anymore? I mean, and then how does that, and explain to the audience what a meta tag is.
Well, so meta tags, meta descriptions, meta titles. Those are the when you search a website on Google and you see the page title or site title on there. That's the meta title. Is that the big text at the you can click on to get to the website. The description is the text underneath it, those short little couple of sentences that gives you a description of what the website's about. And it's extremely important, not just for Google when they're crawling your site to find that and hopefully find keywords in there that are relevant to what your audience is searching for, but also for the end user to see stuff that's not just a bunch of code or, because automatically, typically your site's going to try to pull whatever the first text is from your web page. And a lot of times for a lot of web builders, that ends up being just a string of code, which means nothing to an end user. So you want to make sure you set your meta description, meta title. You can have tags on your page. That can all help with your visibility on Google, but they are also extremely important in the for the end user. And I know Shelby has helped me considerably with a lot of meta tags, meta descriptions. So she knows how it can be a little bit time consuming to put that in for every single page, but it's very, very important.
And for every blog.
And for every blog too, yes.
Which gets very, very tedious.
Yes.
But it is important because then when they're searching for a specific topic, they can find your blog and ultimately your website.
Right.
What's an H1? What I've seen that. What's an You like how I'm playing dumb here?
Yeah,
What's an H1 tag?
Like you don't know.
What? Oh my God. So what is an H1 tag? What is this what you're talking about when you say tags?
So that is actually different. The header tags on a site, that's part of the HTML code. Every site's going to whatever you build it on, if you build it on WordPress, it still is made up of HTML code, which is just a code language that someone probably much smarter than me could describe better. But you want to, every page has, you want to set an H1 and an H2 tag. You can have H3 through H6, I believe, tags. But for sure, H1 and H2, those are basically just a way to denote a header in the HTML code, which the HTML code is what Google crawls. That's what Google sees as your code. And so by setting, an H1, H2 tag, you can kind of tell Google these blocks of text have more importance than the other ones. These are our headers. And so by having keywords in those headers, that can also help your SEO. It can help with your search queries if you have those relevant keywords in your header tags. At the very least, you want to set it because that's something you want to set your H1 and H2 tags on every page, every blog, which again can be tedious, but Google's going to be looking for that when they crawl your site. So that's something you want to make sure you set up and make sure it's still relevant. You don't want to just set it, any of this stuff, you don't want to just set it and completely forget about it. You want to make sure it's, up to date and you're keeping track of it all.
So I want to talk about the rest of SEO, but I'm going to cheers you guys because this is great. Are you not drinking anymore? It's fine. You don't have to. I finished all mine. So I guess what I want to talk about now, so we talked about on-page SEO. We talked about the importance of the design elements and how you have to take all that time, like Kina said, to do the extra work. A lot of designers put the pretty website together. They deliver it to you as a business because you can't see all the underpinnings that Kina's talking about. And that's where the majority of the time comes from, right?
Yes.
So you got to be careful about who you hire and make sure that's in the scope of work and in the contract that you sign, because a lot of designers will just hand you something that you think is the most badass website in the world, but it doesn't work.
Right.
Functionally it works, but Google doesn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's on-page SEO. Let's talk about SEO in general, off-page or however you want to define it. So the first thing that comes to mind is Google and Bing and their profiles. that you create on those. So let's start there, and then I'll chime in, and we'll talk about blogging and the importance of all these other things that you really have to be doing as a small business to stay ahead of your competitors. So let's start with profiles.
Yeah, so Google Business Profiles have, just since I've been here at SmarterWeb, I feel like every day they're more and more important. They are when you make a search on Google, contractor services near me, whatever it may be, a lot of times it's the near me searches. We call it kind of the map pack. The little map will pop up in your search with a list of businesses next to it. And, you click on that business, it tells you their phone number, website, about all these details about them. That's their Google business profile. Or if you're on Bing, that's their Bing profile. And those are extremely important. You've probably noticed that those show up before any other search results besides Google Ads nowadays, for the most part. So it's extremely important to make sure that, not only is your profile built out, because you can set all that up and forget about it if you want, but that's not going to work for you the same way that posting regular content to it will. Updating your photos regularly will. Getting Google reviews will. Reviews are extremely important to those profiles. And Google continues to add features to these business profiles that you can work within to help get your business profile higher up the rank for those. And they're extremely, extremely valuable. And a lot of businesses aren't really jumping at that quite yet. So, we've noticed it has so far been a lot easier, maybe not easier, but we can see results a lot quicker in those business profiles than in regular, or what they call organic search results with the links to your website.
And that's what your mastermind
Right.
Product does for your customers, right? So if they get a website in the full mastermind bundle package, you're doing a lot for them under that program. And one of those things you're doing is maintaining that and driving blogs into those profiles.
Correct.
So the blogging into those profiles, you guys, you custom build all those blogs for every specific customer. That has to be really tedious since you're working across so many different industries, right?
Yes. Shelby,
Yeah.
Shelby can definitely speak to that.
Chime in, Shelby. Come on.
It is very tedious. Like you said, we do have a lot of different industries, so you do kind of learn to be in all of those industries, which for me is fun because I get to learn all of these different businesses and how their customers think and what they want to see. So the first thing I try to do every time I start writing a blog is Kina and I have already done, usually by this point, some keyword research. So we know what the questions their customers are asking, what they're looking for, what keywords this company is going for in Google, what keywords are working for them. And so I try to base off of those keywords and answer the questions for those clients that have to do with that, I guess. So a good example would be, mold inspections. That's a fun one to write about.
Wow. That's an interesting topic.
It is, but it's important. And, that's the keyword that you might be ranking for. And so we want to put out content that answers questions for the client, such as, mold inspectors near me, or questions about how to go about that, questions about how to clean up after you have a mold infestation. So we really do tailor those blogs to the customer and to their client base.
How do you curate that data? Do you leverage AI to do the research, or do you leverage AI to write the whole damn thing?
A lot of people use AI for the whole thing.
And why is that? Is that a bad thing? That's a bad thing, right?
I wouldn't say good or bad, but Google is also an algorithm-based program, and it can tell that you've used AI to write this blog. It's not going to give the same weight.
And they have to de-rank based on using pure AI because you've got to have human involvement.
Yeah. And the content's typically it doesn't actually answer the question typically, or it's not as high quality than if you were to have a human write it,
So you can leverage AI to do the research, find out the pertinent facts, but you don't want to take it word by word or even take the whole thing it wrote. You just want to take the facts out of it and rewrite it, correct?
Right. I think if you were, and I mean, I'm sure all of us have played around with AI to see its capabilities
Right.
and what it can do. But if you were to just ask AI to write you a blog, it would be very repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
And it would use a lot of words that humans just don't use when they talk to each other. So, yeah, for us, I think it is very important to have that human touch because you can tell when it's been completely written by AI.
Yeah, and so we use AI to we leverage AI, let me
Right.
say it that way, to kind of build out the foundation for our Nerds on Tap episodes, but we don't stick to AI on we've been all over the place here, but it's not all coming out of this. I mean, because that's the importance of it, is it has to be a human-driven content approach.
Right.
Because your audience is human. It is not a robot.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, this is some amazing stuff, ladies.
You're just saying that because you finished both your beers.
Why haven't you?
I'm working on it. I finished one.
I will say Kina weighs like 100 pounds, if that. So you're, excuse me if it's not 100 pounds. But yeah, she's almost done with her second beer. So let's talk about that. So we talked about portfolios, or I'm sorry, profiles. Yeah, I have had 2 beers. We've talked about profiles. We've talked about the importance of blogging into that profile. What else is involved? Is there anything else involved with ongoing SEO?
Oh, there's a ton. It really doesn't, the blogging and the content is extremely important for sure to have fresh content. And not just blogging too. It could be maybe you want landing pages on your website. We see that often for a different landing page for a particular geographic area if you serve different geographic areas or for a particular product. But there are lots of other ways to bring traffic to your site. Not popular, but one piece that's very important are backlinks, where this one's a lot harder. This is probably one of the hardest ones for businesses to implement because it's not up to you. Backlinks are links back to your website from other websites. So a lot of times this can be from directories like Yelp or, even Google Maps technically.
So if I sign up, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but if I sign up for, let's say, a chamber membership.
Right.
So let's talk about that. The chamber is going to link to your website.
And
that helps.
That does it does help. And one thing to keep in mind with backlinks, Google does like to, see backlinks. It's helpful to have links back to your site, but you want them to be good links. You don't want to just go, because there are services where you can go and pay a little bit of money for just a large quantity of backlinks. There's something called domain authority, which was actually, I think, not created, but mos.org, I think it's .org. They put that together to kind of rank domains, rank websites based on, the credibility of them, essentially. And if you have a backlink that's not from a credible website, that's really not doing anything for you because Google doesn't trust that site. So why would they trust that link back to your website? It can almost count against you. So you want the right kind of backlinks to your website. The chamber would be a good one because that's typically a very reputable website.
Or a good magazine.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
And the better that magazine ranks,
Right.
if it's linking to you, it can help, like Inc. or
Inc.
even local trade mags that might be specific to your industry would be good.
Yes, yeah. And so that's like I said, that's a harder one for a lot of businesses to get because it involves, you can't really do anything about it. People are going to put your link on their website. I mean, you can go out. There are things you can do to help with that. Link building campaigns that you can go on and that we do, but it tends to be a little bit harder.
So we talked about design. We talked about the importance of everything on page. We talked about ongoing SEO services. That's your mastermind bundle. And then we want to dive into the last part. Obviously, there's more that goes into, you've got ongoing marketing campaigns that you run for your customers, that maybe an AdWords campaign that ties into a landing page, and so on and so forth. We're going to save that part for maybe another show, but I do want to dive back into the data part of it. On your website, it says you are a data-driven marketing company.
That's right.
Data guides you to help your customers.
Correct.
So data, one piece of data that I know about on your smartboard in your data analytics is how those campaigns, what campaigns are driving traffic to the customer's website. So if you have 3 campaigns running for a customer, let's say an AdWords campaign, or let's say 3 AdWords campaigns, all going to 3 different landing pages with Vogue numbers on them, all running back to, obviously running back to generate leads to the customer. And you see that one of them is not converting, but the other 2 are different.
Right.
What would you do? Am I putting you on the spot? What would you do if you're sitting down having your monthly marketing meeting with that customer and you're going to point out to them that this one isn't working, right? You're either going to shut it down and you're going to put your focus on the other 2 campaigns, or you're going to create a new one to replace it, or you're going to probably compare that to the other 2 campaigns that are running.
Right.
And I'm talking for you at this point. I'm going to let you go ahead.
Well, I mean, you're exactly right. Those are essentially the different options that would be before us. We could just discount that campaign entirely, decide it's not worth our time or money to continue, or we could create a new one, which I think typically wouldn't necessarily be the way to go. Not always, of course, but or we could compare that campaign with the 2 that are working, try to figure out what it is about the other 2 that's working and what it is about that third one that's not. And luckily, we have lots of analytics, insights into that in our smartboard, where we can compare, is it, if they all have the same budget, is it a budget issue? Is it, a landing page issue? Are people, you can track and see with like, if we're talking about Google Ads campaigns, we can see that people are clicking on the ad and they're getting to the different landing pages, but maybe it's the landing page where they're dropping off. Maybe that landing page is just loading so slowly for whatever reason, people are dropping off. So there's so much that we can dive into to see. There's so many reasons that one could be performing poorly.
I love that you bring up load times.
Yeah, it's extremely important.
Extremely important, and it's extremely important to understand the platform that you built the website on. Because, like, for instance, WordPress, that's the most popular platform. WordPress, they sit on a database, and it takes time to load that information. So putting it on a faster server, and maybe even a dedicated server, because in most cases when you're hosting a site, you're on a shared server with dozens of other websites.
Yes.
And obviously when you're on a shared server, if one of those gets hacked, then your website's vulnerable. Right. But having that fast load time, that's one variable in the algorithm that Google sees, correct?
Yes. And if you can run a page speed test using Google's tool. You can Google page speed test, and it can tell you so many things that could be contributing to a slow load time. And I'm sure everyone, all of us and everyone listening has tried to access a website and it just took too long to load and you clicked off, and that can be a huge turnoff for a potential buyer. So
But Google's going to de-rank you a little bit
yes.
in their organic listings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Google does not like that.
So I had a question on here. How does a small business stay ahead in the competitive digital marketing landscape? Now, my opinion after sitting in on this show, hosting this show, I should say, is that they should all hire SmarterWeb.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you ladies seem to really know what you're doing. I hear you have an amazing boss.
He's okay.
Thank you for that. But no, what? Golly, what can so hiring you if they don't know what to do, shop around, look at the different. There's a million
Right.
gazillion marketing agencies out there. What makes SmarterWeb unique is you limit your client count, and that way you can give white glove support to
Right.
your customers, correct? So you become, when they hire you for a website, they're not really hiring you for a website. They're hiring you to have basically you become their marketing department, right?
Right. We meet with we either meet with or at least give the opportunity to every single one of our clients, no matter which service they're on, to meet with us monthly. Typically, it's with one of us, and we go over their analytics. We go over how if we have campaigns running for them, how they're performing. But we have lots of clients who need advice with other marketing pieces that maybe we don't necessarily handle, but like social media is a big one that we don't handle in house currently, but that a lot of people want advice on because it's
Yeah.
such an important piece. And we can give them direction on that. We are almost like their marketing consultant.
And that's social media is time heavy.
It's very extremely.
And that's why we choose not to do it,
Yes.
because we want to do what we really do best, and we
Right.
don't want it to pull away your time from what really matters to our
Right.
customers.
And I do recommend that for any marketing service. If you have an agency, not to call out anyone in particular for sure, but a lot of places, unless they're large enough, it's extremely difficult to do everything, especially when you add social media into the mix. Social media is such
Yeah.
a beast. And so I think the quality can really suffer if you end up
It's hard to find one agency to do
yeah,
it
that
all
does
and do it well.
everything. So that's, I guess, a word of caution. But
So this is the last thing that before our next beer that I'm going to bring up is give me you mentioned we were talking you were getting really excited and passionate when you were talking about how you help customers in those monthly marketing meetings. Give me a case study. I'm going to put you on the spot. I would love to hear a case study without mentioning any customer in particular on the air. A case study or a success story from your portfolio. Give me a rave.
well, we have a couple, and I have noticed it does tend to be the customers that we meet with that take advantage of the full, we're basically their marketing consultants. The ones that take advantage of that do tend to be the ones that see the results either the quickest or the most. But
I know who you're talking about. I know which one you're going to talk about because we're driving a lot of traffic
Yes.
to them, right?
Yeah.
Their phones are ringing.
yes, and actually there's two in particular. We have one, they're essentially a contractor, and they use us for Google Ads. We do SEO for them, and we built their website. And their website, they had nothing when we first started. They had no existing anything on their domain. They're in a pretty highly competitive industry, but by crafting content that's so unique to what their target audience is searching for, and for their ad campaigns, putting the money into effective campaigns, not just putting the money into random places, setting it and hoping it works. I mean, we saw on the SEO side, we saw them climbing Google within a matter of it was very quick.
That's amazing.
It blew my mind, honestly, because they came from literally nothing.
Yeah.
They had no history on that domain, so that was
And it's a pretty competitive industry.
especially in our area, it's very competitive.
And you were making them pop.
Yes, yeah, their phones were ringing.
So I want to hear more about your portfolio and these amazing stories. Before that, I'd like to take a beer tasting break to refresh before we continue the conversation. Suds?
All right, our third beer of the night is a tangerine wheat ale from the Lost Coast Brewery in Eureka, California. It's a refreshing citrus ale brewed with the perfect balance of wheat and crystal malt. Tangerine wheat delivers a perfectly crisp finish for those hot summer days.
So
I like that one.
the first thing I'm realizing is there's a lot of fruity beer on today's episode.
Well, I tried to get stuff that people that don't drink a lot of beer would
He
like.
asked us what we might like.
Are you liking them?
Yeah, I like these. I really like this one.
This one's my favorite.
Yeah, I think so too.
I like this one.
It's very, especially when you bring it up. The smell.
You know what?
It smells really good too.
Mhm.
This is like I don't know. That's an
It
interesting.
is.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you're not drinking a beer,
It does almost taste like a seltzer.
like a
Yeah,
seltzer.
yeah.
I feel like I'm drinking one of my wife's Trulies or Norm. What is the other one? Normal or
Don't know.
we have a whole cooler full of that stuff, and every now and then by the pool I break one out without anybody looking.
Of course.
Oh, did I say that on air? No, but that is a tasty beer.
Yeah.
Good.
Tell us again where that's from.
This is from the Lost Coast Brewery in Eureka, California.
So everybody, we're gonna tag them in. Let me step back. Shelby is going to tag this when we post this episode, and she'll tag the beer companies, specifically this one, as her favorite. So she's going to probably drop a reel about it or something.
That's right. Keep a lookout.
A real close up.
I'm calling her out on air to see if that happens. No,
Well, now I can't let you down.
Right.
I appreciate you. So let's get into your projects and let's talk about the future of web development. I want to get into both of those topics to wrap up today's show before we drink that very dark beer
Yeah.
that I know you guys are staring at going, I don't know if I want that.
Yeah.
I am going to enjoy that unless it tastes like coffee.
Oh, you're not.
Oh, great. What is it, licorice?
We'll get to it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Suds. So I'd like to shed a spotlight on some of SmarterWeb's notable projects and collaborations. We don't necessarily want to talk about names. You can find all those names on your website at smarterweb.net under your portfolio. But if you would care to talk about, actually, I guess you can say names on here since it's on our website. I'd like to talk about some of these projects and what was one of the more thrilling projects to work on that really made you like it just excited you.
Honestly, all of our web design.
I bet it was
I love.
digitalboardwalk.com's new website.
Honestly, digitalboardwalk.com is probably my favorite one to date. We just launched that.
It's because of your collaborators, right?
Yes, I had great collaborators, and
Didn't one of them always go, is this done yet?
yeah, like every.
I'm about to spit this out. No, in all seriousness. So digitalboardwalk.com was a labor of love, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yes, and it definitely took some time, but I feel like the best things do, and everything from the content to the design to the funnel, the process of.
You've got 2 sales funnels in there.
Yes.
You pushed all that. Now I don't understand. You pushed all the deep information down into the footer.
That's right.
It's not up on the drop-down menus
Right.
where people can easily find it. Why did you do that?
So we are essentially trying to push people the direction that we want them to go, as opposed to having them jump around to a million pages that may not necessarily even answer the questions they're looking for. We took a very different approach. We created pages that, based on who you are and what you're looking for, hopefully answer all of the questions you may have about, in this case for Digital Boardwalk, the managed IT services. So as opposed to presenting, here's our IT support page, here's our cloud page, here's our cybersecurity page, which you can still access those in the footer. We instead try to push people, are you a small business? What do you need help with? Are you looking for, do you need help with compliance? So instead of, it's need-based as opposed to, here's what we do, go through these pages. It's need-based. It's what do you need? And here's a page on how we can help you. And then that also pushes them to, if this is who you are and this is what you're looking for, here's a specific either resource, or we have our IT maturity assessment on the site that can help provide you more direction or more information based on who you are and what you're looking for.
So okay, so let's talk about one more. Let's talk about another project that comes in as a runner-up to digitalboardwalk.com, and um, what drove your passion in this other project.
There is another project that we started as a web design project with them, and they provide at-home care to seniors or those with disabilities, people who just need care at home.
Mhm.
And like I said, we started with the website for them, and that was a very enjoyable project from beginning to end because they had a good handle on who they were speaking to, who their audience was, and the message that they were trying to get across. They understood, as we were going through the process, if we wanted to present certain messaging or certain visual elements, they understood 100%, what we were trying to get across. And it was very, a lot of cohesion, I guess is maybe the word I'm looking for, from the very beginning. And shortly after the website was live, they ended up signing on for our SEO services and Google Ads services, and have seen, I meet with them regularly, seem to have phenomenal results from them. And month over month, whether it's they look for both customers for their services, but also employees. And for both fronts, we're driving traffic, we're bringing them the business that they're looking for. And we also, I met with them recently and provided a whole list of other ideas for ways that they can promote their business. So I think the customers that want to meet regularly and are as involved, not involved necessarily, but are as passionate about their business. I mean, that's just such a great relationship that we end up having with them, because we're just so much synergy, I guess is what I'm saying. We end up having a lot of synergy and great conversations about how they can promote their business.
So Shelby, you're newer here at SmarterWeb, and coming in from the outside and sitting down, you mentioned earlier in this show about the passion and the interactions we have with our customer base and how we approach it and how we love all our customers at SmarterWeb. And you have a lot of interactions with them as well, correct? Since you've been here?
Yes, absolutely. Mainly on our newer projects
Right.
that I've been able to start with Kina. So it has been nice to be able to talk with them. I think that drives a lot of our passion because we get to know them and we get to know their passions for what they do and why they're doing it. And that really helps us to tailor their content and design.
Now, behind the scenes, you guys use a multitude of tools and technologies. I don't want to know about every one of them because I know you have a tool that basically, you have tons of tools that do all kinds of specific things.
Mm-hmm.
How many tools do you guys have to manage at any given time to not just pull off web design, but SEO and creation and content? I mean, there has to be at least one or two dozen.
Yeah, there's a good bit. That's, I mean, yeah, at least a dozen, and it's kind of hard to keep track because we set them up, but they all funnel into Smartboard. So for sure, for the customer, there's only one portal that they're logging into. But once we have it set up, we utilize Smartboard on our end too.
So how in the world can a customer, without any upfront project fees or any major costs? I know all these web designers charge thousands of dollars all up front, which, I've been an entrepreneur and a small business owner, a multitude of different businesses and projects for 30 years. And I know when I'm in startup phase, it's really hard for me to stomach $5, 6, 7, 8, or even more $1,000 just for the website piece of it. How in the world for $350 a month can you do all these things and give them a full marketing department and be able to have all this collaboration that solves a problem for them for only $350? Shouldn't you charge more?
Maybe. It is very interesting because, typically the model has worked where you pay thousands up front for a website, and then every time you want like an update to the website, or you need to, whatever you may need through the site, you pay per update from there on. We took it, the monthly model, and to not only make it easier for small businesses to stomach, but also make it easier to maintain ongoing. If we need an update, you're on our plan. We provide unlimited updates to our website customers so that as your business grows, your website grows with you. As we need to change things because we see things in the data that need to be updated, we can just update them. And so it's a very, I guess maybe we're doing something crazy with the numbers to be able to swing it. But
I have a feeling at the end of the show, you have a special announcement on some sort of special deal that goes beyond even that great price of $350 a month. But I'm gonna let our listeners sit and wonder as we dive into a couple more quick things before we close out the show and before you introduce that special. So you may want to think about that special between now and then
I guess so.
as well, because I'm putting you on the spot, but I know you can offer them something to at least give you a try.
Yeah.
So behind the scenes, tell me, and I'm going to try to get Shelby to talk a little more. Tell me about some of the challenges and creative solutions that you guys have encountered in anything you do behind the scenes and under the hood of what you do for customers.
That's a great question.
Collaboration, maybe. So you don't have any challenges. Wow. So this is the company you should hire.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
I know what the challenge is. I'm pretty sure I know. I think it's so customers have to, number one, designing a website, it's a collaborative thing. It's like making a piece of art. Obviously, if you're making a piece of art for yourself, you know what you're going to create. But when you're making something for someone else, and a website is technically a piece of art when it's done, you have to have input. Otherwise, you're going to design what you want to design.
right.
So is the challenge that I'm seeking a customer that doesn't make themselves available during the design phases and the discovery phases? Because otherwise you're just guessing, right?
Yes, that can be pretty difficult. Either they're not available enough, or they're, I guess, I don't want to say too available, but there's conflicting input, especially, if there's different ideas on how things need to either look and feel, or the messaging, people have different ideas. That's part of what we do, is trying to condense, get to the bottom of what it is that's actually best for the business, best for the client, and what meets the needs, the wants and needs of everybody involved, all of the the key players.
So like, for instance, content. I mean, when you're collaborating with a customer and you're building it for a mold, someone that does mold remediation, I mean, obviously we're not in the mold remediation business. You've got to have input to create that content. You can't just spit out content and go, look what I create. Well, they're going to go, mold. What is this section on cheese?
Absolutely.
I'm
I will say
making
too,
a joke here, but you get the idea.
I will say too, there's some industries in which there's things that you can say and you can't say.
Right.
And Kina and I are not experts in every field.
It's a compliancy area. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that I think our customers being responsive with us really helps with, because we don't know all of those rules.
Right.
Well, so let's dive into a couple last things before we drink another beer. Kina's like, no more, no more.
I'm doing my best.
Tell me about the future. Do you have a crystal ball? When it comes to web development and emerging technologies in the web arena, Tell me what.
I mean, we were talking about AI earlier. AI is definitely only going to be a bigger and bigger part of not just what we do, but probably most industries. There are so many different ways you can leverage AI to either, get a certain task done quicker, or provide value that wouldn't be possible with just human, without any type of AI. And so I don't know exactly, the future of how AI is going to affect marketing in particular, but I know it's going to have a huge impact. I will say too, I don't know necessarily that we stress the importance. We talked about it, but the importance of making sure your website is responsive to different screen sizes, like mobile, tablet, laptop, desktop, whatever it may be. But a lot of times we've been doing some of our projects where we build mobile first. So we focus on the mobile version of the website first, because people may not ever even see the desktop. People go on their phones so much nowadays, even with, in B2B, that, mobile is just so extremely important. Making sure your site functions well on mobile is one of the most important pieces of building a website nowadays.
When I look at analytics, I mean, it's nowadays it's like, I don't know if it's this far, but pretty close to 80-20.
Yeah.
80% going to mobile first, 20 to PC.
Right.
Because it's in our pocket.
Right.
Right. So we had a lot of great key takeaways from today's show. Before we get into the special that Kina wants to talk about, we talked about the importance of web design. We talked about how SEO, not only on page, but recurring SEO, including profiles on Google and Bing, can affect your placement. We talked about your portfolio, and we talked about the fact that for $350 a month, you can hire an entire team of marketing professionals to become your marketing department, which includes a website, ongoing updates, ongoing collaboration, reports that they will discuss with you each month to decide what the next step might be in your business to help scale up your business and drive revenue. So with that said, what special do we have for our audience today? Do you want me to help you with that?
I think I could use a little help.
Let's call in your boss.
Good idea.
Hey, boss. I'm here. So I think I'm feeling a little giddy right now. And I feel like if someone has listened to this show to this point, they should congratulate themselves, because I'm not only willing to knock off 10% off of their first year of monthlies, but the first month will be completely comped. So you're basically only paying for 11 months out of the 12, and you're getting those 11 months at 10% off. But you have to mention Nerds on Tap.
Right.
And where can they contact you, Kina?
You can do our SmarterWeb.net, the contact form we all have access to. But, if you want to contact me directly, it's just my name. So Kina, Kina, .Robinette, ROBINETT, @SmarterWeb.net, and just mention Nerds on Tap, and we'll get you that amazing deal that Tim just mentioned.
All right. And with that said, I would like to thank you, ladies. Let's toast with the last beer. Suds, why don't you tell us what we're drinking, and we're going to go ahead and call it a day by downing this like it's a shot.
I don't know if I did. This is the White Chocolate Moohoo Chocolate Milk Stout from the Terrapin Beer Company in Athens, Georgia. It's a dark brown to black in color with aromas of dark chocolate. It has dark roasted malt flavor with hints of caramel and chocolate, rounded out by a sweet, creamy finish.
Yeah.
It doesn't go with the other beers, but I saw it.
I do believe you said you had to down that one.
I know, you were going to.
No, I said
Yeah.
we have to down. Okay.
Why would you say that, Shelby?
You ready? Are we going to down it?
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, SmarterWeb.net is going to down a a really chocolatey beer that I'm not too fond of, but we're going to go ahead and cheers, Shelby.
Cheers.
Kina.
Cheers.
Down that baby. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Nerds on Tap. You can find us at thenerdsontap.com if you want to learn more about our other shows, or go to smarterweb.net, mention Nerds on Tap, get the special. If you fill out the form, you can get 10% off 11 months plus the first month free. And I'd like to mention our other sponsor, digitalboardwalk.com, that makes the magic happen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much for having us.
What?
I'm not drinking that.
What?
Did you guys down it?
We did.
All right, well, hell.
You have to.
Yeah, you.
Salute! Thank you. Thanks. Y'all did great. Cheers, my fellow nerds and beer lovers. Stay tuned for more Nerds on Tap. Oh, and one more thing. Help us spread the nerdy love and the love for great brews by sharing this podcast with your friends, colleagues, and fellow beer enthusiasts. Let's build a community that embraces curiosity, innovation, and the enjoyment of a cold one.